if you don't give my son a child, I am going to get my son remarried again.
Should we get this question of having a child, or if we do not have a child, should we go for fertility treatments, be asked in the premarital counseling stage itself?
Two people cannot live together. Would they be able to raise a child together? Hello and welcome to the XnY podcast on intentions, connections and intimacy. Welcome to yet another episode with me, Suman Raju, your host. Joining me today, the usual suspects, Dr. Himabindu and our in-house psychologist, Dr. Maya Shravanti.
Hi Suman, good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, both of you.
So Tuman, today the episode we are going to talk about, the topic is infertility, a word that has, emotionally, physically and mentally has a lot of effect on the couples. And I'm so glad we are bringing this topic today to discuss further.
And I'm glad that we're having this conversation because I think it's time this be put on the table and very pertinent to the work that we do at XnY as well.
So, Dr. Maya, it's pity that today we have to bring out a topic to spread awareness. Even, I think we are somewhere between 15%. The infertility rate in India is at 15 and still it's taboo. People don't talk about it openly. Why do you think that situation is?
I'll take a big breather and actually say that I don't think anybody should actually be in this position.
Yes.
Because not only is it a taboo topic, it's also something people don't want to talk about.
Yeah.
But everybody is going to openly ask you when you're having the child.
Yeah.
You're not bothered about how the person is feeling, but through our earlier podcast as well, we were talking about sexual dysfunction, we were talking about how, watching porn and all of those. We are okay with talking about such topics, but essence of who we are as people, we do not want to have conversations because it's again considered not good. It's a private affair. But then we'll shame everybody openly and saying, oh, when are you having your child? People are getting married on a stage. People are talking below, when are you going to have your child? When are you planning? And we're like, it's a choice that people have to make.
Yeah.
A woman doesn't have a child, then it's internalized that you're not woman enough. And people think that men are not impacted by infertility, but that's not true. Sadly, even men are very, very impacted by infertility, both mentally and physically.
I doubt if people ask themselves that do we really want to be parents, or are we even prepared to be parents?
Are people even having these conversations before the wedding even begins off?
Yes.
Right? And this pertains to both dating as well as, if you're meeting people on apps, on dating, it's an arranged marriage setup. This is an important conversation to have. Do we want to have kids?
It's something that they choose and they're private about it. Let's not too much push
Bring
them.
it out into the public.
Yeah.
It is said about 35% of women in India who do not have children actually have something that we call as reproductive trauma.
Oh.
And there's a study that was done in both in AIMS and NIMHANS, and where they spoke about the fact that they're shamed and then they're internalizing the guilt. And this is something that is almost bordering symptoms on post-traumatic stress disorder, which is usually seen in soldiers and seen in people who are in extremely stressful traumatic scenarios like war or earthquake, tsunami. Why are we doing this to a womb and a mother and a father who probably are still better human beings, but you're just putting them through that? And 35%, if they're showing PTSD symptoms, that means there's going to be sleep disorders, there's going to be anxiety, there's
The
going to be
ramifications are everywhere.
everywhere. And sadly, what we all forget is, let's say the couple is actually trying.
Yeah.
Everybody else putting this pressure on them.
It affects it.
And then intimacy becomes a chore.
We talked about people not being ready or talking in premarital marriages, but infertility itself is a very emotional term. And when they are planning and they hear that infertility applied to them, what is the effect that these couples, be it a man or a woman, have on themselves?
The emotional toll that you have when the term itself is applied to them.
Yes.
With women, like Dr. Bindu rightly said, the shaming is very out there. And I'll tell you a very interesting anecdote. A lady who was, who was in therapy with me and was struggling to actually have a child, she said, I hate the kitchen. Very interesting. I said, the kitchen? Like, why would you hate the kitchen? Because all this hush-hush happens in the kitchen when you're talking with your mother-in-laws and with all of your relatives. This is not a dining room conversation. But when you're chopping vegetables and when you're cooking, there's these snide comments that go around, and sadly, these are the women who are crying themselves to sleep.
So sad.
So the impact both psychologically, physiologically, and physically on the body, and the quality of the egg, the quality of the sperm, the timing, everything becomes so heavy that that client of mine said, I'd rather not do anything than just hold my husband and sleep, because I've been so emotionally drained out, trying to defend myself and tell the conversation in my head that I am capable of doing this. And that in itself impacts productivity, both at work, reduces your ability to function as an individual on an everyday basis. Your appetite goes down, your sleep goes down, your stress levels are high. Who's making them infertile? They themselves, or are we adding to the entire trauma of it?
And I think as a couple, you tend to drift apart, right? When you're dealing with infertility too.
That is the bigger thing. Like we said, there's no more dry spells. There is no intentionality to do this, because with every cycle, literally, it's so sad that this happens, right? Every period cycle is like a waiting trauma, because they're counting. And it is said they become so obsessed that they're keeping track of their ovulatory cycles. They're using ovulation strips. They're constantly checking. And this becomes like an obsession in the head and impacts their entire livelihood and quality of life.
What is supposed to come organically becomes work.
Becomes work.
What happens here is, if a woman, if a couple is trying, and slowly what starts as let's try and then enjoy the act becomes a process. Okay, today I checked my ovulation, today is my ovulation, come let's do it. Irrespective of are they even in their own house and even their privacy, they don't, like somewhere this creeps in so much that they forget what the surroundings they are. Only their focus is the act done. Is it done? And then after this 15 days, first thing they do is let me check. When a negative test comes in or they start bleeding, everything collapses, because the hope for having a positive pregnancy is so high, because they planned everything exactly on the egg release day. I checked, it's my egg released, so I had it, so I'm going to be pregnant. So that wanting also goes high, the hopes go high, and all of them crash coming down.
Trauma gets amplified.
And that's exactly why we say this is what we call as you're grieving the loss of an unborn child every period cycle. And then coming to what you had said about how does this impact and why do they drift apart? Because they're not speaking about anything else.
Openly.
No, I mean, the conversation is no longer about how are you feeling, do we have, what do we have for dinner, lunch? Everything becomes a chore, and then you're trying to field the comments that the family and society is trying to do. So these two people they don't have anything else to speak. So what conversations are they going to have? And something that we've so emphasized at XnY, the intimacy is a toss. There is no intentionality, no intimacy. And let me tell you, there's no interest.
Yeah. I remember a friend telling me back when he had his own problems with fertility, he said every conversation leads into infertility and you end up fighting. So you rather, the husband goes in a different direction and the wife tends to
There is
stay
a
alone.
slight gap that comes in.
And it creeps in without knowing.
Notice.
And whether they notice it or not, nobody allows them to forget.
Yes.
I know. The society is always on top of them.
No, it's like culturally, this belief of if you have a child, you're worth. And not having a child is not worth being a woman. And how do these people navigate? How should they navigate, shut off all of these noises and then take it forward? Like, she has to build a relationship, she has to be intimate, also have a kid, she will have hope. But at the same time, all of this culture, you're not woman enough, you're not man enough, they'll have to shut it out.
Yeah.
How do they do that?
Keep this process between the both of you and, people who are supportive to you. Like, who will support you, speak to them more. To the ones who you believe will drag you down, try limiting your conversations. While it doesn't sound great, you will be thankful to yourself for having done this, because it reduces negativity. It doesn't pull you down easily. So keep
Choosing your inner circle is important.
Have that one meal in the day with yourselves. Talk about it. Talk about things other than this. So there was a technique I gave a couple who was doing. I said, what are the topics that are not supposed to be at the dinner table? So no talking about fertilization, no talking about ovulation, no talking about periods. what are the topics that are allowed in the dinner table conversations were listed.
I think it's good even if you have your in-laws and the older adults in the room. देख के हाँ पता चल जाएगा मेरे को नहीं बात करना ये सब.
It actually helped because every time, anybody would bring up the conversation, one of them would say, oh, we have a rule in the house and that rule is on the board.
It's like Bear. I don't know if you see the series. The non-negotiables are printed on the wall.
But that's a good thing. It seems like a silly thing to do and people judge you for doing it, but that is like creating healthy boundaries.
It's a positive thing to do.
Yes.
The two of them came back and said, especially the woman came back and said that I felt more supported by my husband every time he directed somebody. And that was friends, family, irrespective. And the woman came back and said, every time he did that, I felt so loved. And the man said something that was very important. I felt like I was doing something to support her without being rude to my family and friends.
Yes.
So this is a very good idea to actually use.
When couples, they have some difference of opinions, they fight a lot and all that. I even heard the older generation say, बच्चा पैदा कर ले सब कुछ खत्म हो जाएगा. I mean, what kind of logic is that? I would never understand.
Oh, that's just a distraction. They never realized that.
They will not have time to fight. They are fighting because they are working towards each
I
other.
mean, if two people cannot live together, would they be able to raise a child together?
That's a fabulous question to ask. If you are not emotionally ready as parents and you don't understand, let me tell you, a lot of people who come into therapy as adults have not had safe parenting or have had parents who do not understand themselves. You're not doing...
Another day, another topic. Yeah.
Like Maya says, always ask yourself, do you really want the child? If you want the child, what are the things and extent you want to go? Plan financially also, not just with your emotional bondings and everything.
So this is what we are trying to now in therapy understand, that this is called as existential anxiety. So you do not know how to not exist without a child because everybody has made this mandate that you have to have the child. And to add on to what Dr. Hima said, I did have a client who was like that. She did go through 4 cycles of the entire IVF and then she actually was successful. She gave birth to twins. And now they don't have the resources and she had to, again, her husband had to work doubly hard. She had to work when she had the child. 6 months later, she went back to work. And she was like, I never really was prepared for this. So preparing for the ramifications of what will happen later, and also how do you then welcome a child? Because now your relationship took a very strong toll, right? How do you then become parents again and then come back to being together? There's an interesting study that was done. It was done in Tata Institute of Social Sciences, where they realized that if you actually are in therapy, during the process of your IUI, IUF, even if it is not that and you're actually trying to be parents, and if you go into therapy, 3 months into it, lesser anxiety, more quality of life, and something that was interesting is they realized that their bond got better.
Yeah.
So why are we talking so much about therapy? It's because this is not easy and you need support systems, and sometimes, like we're speaking about it, our society around us, our families around us might not feel like safe people to have these conversations. So having a non-judgmental, unconditional support from a therapist allows you to understand how you too can work on yourself. Remember, this is only about the both of you and the little one if you want to get them into the world. So it's a conscious choice and doesn't happen with coercion because you can't force love. It needs to come.
Yeah. I mean, like my therapist says, the bravest thing that anybody can ever do is to seek help.
During this process or even before planning kids, women are bombarded with messages that say, what is being a woman if you don't have a child?
Yeah.
Not having a child itself is a struggle with infertility and all, but being judged of her own womanhood is another fight that a woman fights these days.
I'd like to shout out to all those fabulous aunts and uncles who are supporting these amazing people who are struggling to have children. You call them, you see them, you love them. We absolutely are grateful that you all exist because you are the support system in the absence of good therapists and, places like XnY where you are there for your team members.
Maya, while you speak about the woman's perspective, what about men? How do men feel when, I think in a jibe when you say, mard nahi hai, kya paida kyun nahi kar raha hai?
The impact is quite high. And the mental health impact is even higher because they go through silent traumas because of reduced safe spaces and the sentence that you exactly said right now, that are you not man enough? And I've had clients come back and say that it's as if I'm just needed for the sperm and not for the journey. And that in itself makes them feel invalid. And like we spoke about existential anxiety, it falls into that. And that's exactly why therapy during the process of trying to have a baby is going to not only ensure that you have a healthy baby, but also have a healthy relationship at the end of having a baby.
Definitely, yes. Maya, you have seen so many couples that come to therapy during infertility journey. Do they really realize that infertility has taken a toll on their relationships? Do they work around, or they're like, we're fighting so much, so we come? How is the equations when they come to you?
I'll just give it in one statement. No, they're not aware. They're not aware that their relationship has been really impacted by this because you're busy complaining, you're telling you're not doing that, you're not doing this. But one thing I would like to emphasize on is this doesn't stop just at the infertility conversation. That means you're trying to see everything that is inadequate in the person in every other aspect of their life.
It turns into blame game.
Guilt.
Yes, blame, guilt, shame, and then you're doing this to each other. Now, when we start telling them that, do you realize what is happening? They're like, it comes as a jolt first, and they're like, I'm really sorry. But the sad thing is, this requires a lot of unlearning because people don't come to us in the earlier stages of, the process of trying to have a baby or, conceive. They come when it is quite late and the damage that has been done in the relationship is
Significant enough.
And then people don't continue therapy.
Yeah.
We do not fix people in one sessions. We are not mechanics.
What I realized when therapy wise, people come to one call, discovery call or whatever it is, they vent everything that is on their end, and then when we say come for 3 or 6 sessions, you need this to fix their. No, I talked everything. What else is there to talk? It is not about talking and venting out. It is about understanding why you're feeling. Is it in case of infertility? Is it what your mother-in-law, father-in-law, or the society telling you, giving that pressure, or is it really your husband or wife are not listening to you? That is becoming a pressure on you. What is it? To understand that one single call is not
just enough.
You'll be surprised. A client's mother, we constantly keep telling mother-in-laws and father-in-laws, but a client's mother, the client couldn't keep up her pregnancy 3 times because once there was a weak vaginal wall and once it was in the fallopian tube and the third time it was a miscarriage. The mother just said, did I actually give birth to a defective piece?
Oh.
That was really, really gut-hitting. This lady was an amazing managerial role. She quit her job. She could no longer face anything that was happening. And she said, I'd rather not live. It can push people to extreme behaviors as well. While it is not, they're not going to hurt themselves, harm themselves, they stop eating.
Yeah.
They stop socializing. They go into depressive cycles and everything becomes a question on karma.
Yeah. Also, I think when they see other parents, who conceive, there's a lot of resentment, sometimes even jealousy, and with it comes guilt also, because they're generally not those kind of people, but a lot of those mixed feelings come up.
Unfortunately, personality changes do happen, especially because it's the situation that's causing it.
I know, I have seen all of this. How do couples, they'll have to time their physical intimacy, but also create a bond in the relationship when they're doing this, also
Keep the
have it
spark
out
alive rather than just do it for the sake of it.
Right. It's important to understand what is your goal.
Yes.
Do you want to have the child? If yes, when do you plan the child? I remember she was a professor of biochemistry and she said, I think I know better, so I'm going to do better.
That's good.
After their wedding, they waited for 3 years. And in those 3 years, what did they do? They traveled the hell out of life. That created such an amazing bond. Second, they were each other's accountability partners in gym. So they were like, if I'm doing this, you're going to do this. If I do that, you're going to. So they kept pushing each other and they swapped roles. You should actually check out our journal because there are fabulous activities for you to do as couples in the process of this not becoming breaking. So in our journal, like we've mentioned about going out on date nights, about understanding what are your strengths, about doing Johari's window, about figuring out what the smart goals of your relationship is. So when you figure this out, then you draw what we call as a roadmap to that journey.
Team up and put a roadmap.
And something that therapy allows you to do is have backup plans for backup plans. So we prepare you not just for the good, we prepare you for the worst. And when we are preparing you for the worst, what happens is when you're actually in a situation, you will no longer feel helpless, hopeless, or dejected. You will be like, okay, I had plan A. I also was able to develop plan B, C, D with my partner. So I am no longer alone in this journey. And then you always have your therapist to fall back on. We are very good friends. I don't know if you realize this. We can be your biggest cheerleader. So please come back and ensure that these conversations are helping aid the bond and not separate you.
They say infertility sits silently between the couple, but emotionally it's nothing but silent.
I don't think you could have said it any better, Suman sir. I think that's so beautifully put that it sits silently because whom are they questioning? Like, who's at fault? So one of the major things that I've seen people ask is my purpose only to have a child? Or is my purpose only to donate a sperm? So you are questioning people's existence. They could be the big CEOs of company. They've been these fabulous, happy-go-lucky individuals, and something that you mentioned, personality changes happen. People become bitter. People become jealous. People become angry. People are posting hateful statuses, and they don't want to be. It's also said apparently women are exiting groups. When there is too many baby pictures and too much talk about baby showers happening in friend groups, women who are struggling with infertility automatically are exiting these groups because they're unable to take the silent treatment, like you said. So the silence is not just between the couple. The silence is happening everywhere. And as a coping mechanism, they turn to God. And in that, they're constantly negotiating and bargaining with God and saying, what have I done to you that you put me like this?
And I don't think there's too much time given to recover from loss also. In that, there's no opportunity to address or express grief. What kind of effect does it give, on mentally, emotionally?
It's like, you are, the effect is so high that you push once and then you're not getting a breather. Like if you were to take a breath and I hold the nose, and do you suffocate? It's the same thing. Those women and those couples are suffocating because they've not had time to process what has actually happened. And you rightly put it by saying grief. The grief, people think that, only if you have a miscarriage should you have grief. Only if you had a medical condition and you had to medically abort the child, that's when you should have grief. But every
failed cycle also,
And that too, once the cycle has failed, they don't wait for another 2-3 months. The next cycle is started then and there.
It's like a race you don't want to start.
And I would like to add a little bit of insight as to why this happens. Because societally also there's a lot of fear that's put into the couple. I'd rather not say woman alone, is because if you don't give my son a child, I am going to get my son remarried again.
Unfortunately, that is still the truth.
Definitely.
So this is not happening because the woman alone wants to do it. People fall in love and then they get married and all. And then when the mother or people around are saying such statements to the daughter and the daughter-in-law, the partner also feels helpless as to how can I ensure that I keep this woman that I love so much.
Yeah.
So this is impacting is because of that fear that is put in. If you're not good enough, you're going to get somebody else and who's going to then have a child. But how is this aiding to the growth of the relationship? So it is a conscious choice. That's why I said literate understanding that infertility is not what somebody wants. It is something that happens. It's a challenge in life, like an accident, like diabetes, like hypertension. This is just something
Just a medical condition
that the body is doing. Sometimes it gets capable enough to try and you're doing it. Sometimes it just doesn't work. It is not the individual's fault. Please understand, if you cannot help them, do not hurt them with your words. Language is so important while talking to individuals who are struggling. And there's research in Indian couples that says 1 in 5 separations apparently happen because of not being fertile.
Oh, that's a big number to say actually. My my thought is, should we get this question of having a child, or if we do not have a child, should we go for fertility treatments, be asked in the premarital counseling stage itself? Should the couples talk to each other about this particular topic?
This is a very interesting question. What do you think premarital counseling does?
Check the love languages, check the compatibility.
But what many people don't know is we check medical reports as well.
Yeah.
So, we are talking science in premarital counseling as well. Like, while we understand, oh, do your personalities match? Are you an INTJ? Are you, MBTI? We do all of this. But hello, we take all your tests, all your blood tests, and we're going to put it on the table and say, like, for example, initially PCOD and, hormonal conditions were not that high. But now every second woman in India is having the same. And a lot of people are having, sperm motility, slowed down sperm, or quality of sperm not being high. Common conditions that are happening because of the situations. Now, when we put this on the table, we are telling them there can be a chance that this might not happen.
Yeah.
Do you now want to take this up? Because you then cannot go back, no takesies, no backsies. So you make a choice, informed choice on whether this is something that is very important. There was a couple who had come in for counseling. I mean, they were engaged and all, so they didn't come initially, but they wanted to be prepared for the wedding because they come from two different cultures. So the first question I asked was, what are you both thinking? And they were like, we do not want children. And I said, now is the conversation, because they brought it onto the table. So today's generation is gearing up for this.
I know a friend of mine was saying that it's become a norm for their friends and family to go to a premarital counseling and talk about, do we need to have kids? Do we want them? Are we good enough to have them?
There is this separate category called DINK, dual income and no kids. I somehow love the concept.
They are
People
happy.
are accepting and then walking into marriage rather than you marry and then talk about, I don't want to have kids. You want to have kids. Do I want to compromise? Unnecessary. When you're marrying itself, if your core values match, it's a perfect match.
Yeah, but if it does not happen, if there is no choice of premarital counseling, how early is too early to bring this conversation in?
It's never too early. It's
Neither
never
is-
too early.
Neither is it too late, maybe.
Exactly. So when your parents tell, oh, do you want 20 minutes to talk? Bring this, like carry a paper and say, these are my non-negotiables, these are my negotiables, this is what I would love to do, this is what I do not want to do. Kids are a yes, dogs are a no, plants are a yes. Put it out there because you owe it to each other. Get into a relationship with complete knowledge.
Understanding, knowledge and awareness.
And then don't do this blame game thing. No, you didn't tell me then, you didn't tell me now, but so no. And also putting some light onto it, a lot of these apps that are out there, actually,
Swipe right and swipe left.
they actually give you an option to list thinking of kids, do not want to think of kids, potential for dog parent, potential for plant parent. So they're actually having those options. So if a dating app can get flashy and nice, why can't arranged marriage setting actually get flashy and nice? Like, you're given the 20 minutes. You're not cheating, yeah. Just take a paper and say, dude, let's do this matching. Let's see where we stand. Now, what does that do? You're respecting.
Or just put a Google form and send it.
Oh, yes.
That would be very nice.
Why not is the question, right? While it sounds very smart an idea.
Very corporate.
Exactly. Instead of a biodata, have an actual internal mental blueprint of who you are as a person. And let the person know. You'll be surprised, people who've had these conversations in their dating phases will support their partner to the end.
More thoroughly.
Both the sides. So we are telling it is possible to have a good life, a good relationship, and an amazing marriage when you learn to understand what you want and understand your partner's language as well.
Now that you gave me so many tips, things to do, we know that not just women, men, they go through a lot while going through IVF, especially women with PCOD. It is physically daunting, emotionally daunting already, and to add to this IVF, and the husband has to support through all of this. Give us some really good tips and tricks to keep the bond alive and also go through this journey, because both of them are emotionally strained.
I would say even before you begin the journey, build a support system first. Like, what does that mean? People who you can fall back on, who can be there not just for you both as couple, be your partner's best friend's best friend. This is a good technique because
Partners, best friends, best friend.
okay. So that when you don't know what to do and how to support your partner, the best friend is always going to come in use. They are going to be your Superman who's going to rescue you at all points of time. First point. Remember, self-care is not selfish. While you've spent so much money on the entire process and procedure, remember small acts of care, that morning cup of chai or that evening jog or your gym session. Try not to miss out on them. And something that I would like to say, have a routine. Do not just think about the fact that, oh, we've done this. And remember, hug a lot. eat lot of meals together, and do activities that the both of you would enjoy. You know, I'll say this, fake it until you make it. No, because even if the relationship is taking a toll, even if you're not willing and your mind is not willing, not you, try sit down and, you know, share their interests. Figure out what they want to play pickleball, go with them. One of them wants to go swimming, you don't like, just go sit when they're swimming, you know, just sit at the edge of it and keep having conversations.
Be present in the moment.
That's a beautiful way to say. Be present for your partner through the journey, because remember, a good friendship is something that goes a long way in a relationship, in all relationships. So be that friend that your partner doesn't know where to go to. And that really helps. And focus on nutrition, on diet, regular appointments, and make sure that you all take support of technology for eating, sleeping, and for your medical appointments, because the silence in the halls of hospitals is extremely daunting. So what do? A good technique I told, create a shared playlist. Okay, folks, remember, we are not talking about the fancy headphones. We are talking about the generation where there was one wire and 2 earpods. Get those. It will be funny. Why? Because you cannot move away. So you're going to stay close together and you're going to listen through the song. And those songs were a list that we created which meant to them. So there was fun, there was mix of culture, there's a lot of songs. And carry food with you to the hospital. It's funny, but it always works. And carry food that the opposite person, you know, is interested in. And remember, give those foot massages, book those massages for them, make those small meals, get that dress. And remember, compliment each other. And the most important ingredient is love. It might be difficult, but love.
I wanted to say teamwork.
It need not be very vocal, or, you know, all the other people need not see it, but do it for your own togetherness.
You know, like they say, infertility treatment is both the hopeless and the most hopeful thing that can happen to a couple.
It's because of the uncertainty, right? Because you don't know what is going to be the outcome. You can only keep hoping. So that happens. And I'd love to give it out to all the couples who are trying. Because of your hope, it's very beautiful that you're still hoping. And we would encourage you to keep hoping for the same. Now, in that process, the hopelessness comes because you're the babyless couple, right? You are the parents that cannot be parents. So these are some of the impacts that we see when it becomes very, very detrimental, right? So I would say, speak about what is it that is going to work and how are you going to handle the loss. That is very important. People speak about how will you handle if the baby is born, what are you going to do? Or if you conceive, what are you going to say? I'm going to tell them. But if you don't, who are you actually falling back on? What is your backup plan? Are you going to take a small trip? Are you both just going to go to each other's friend's house and not come back for 2 days because you're resentful, you're angry, you're going to say unpleasant things to each other? So these are smaller practical techniques to do. That couple that I was talking about, they did something very interesting. When the date of checking whether the pregnancies come, they would be in friends' houses. They would not be at home because they're like, house is a safe haven, and every time the cycle is not going through, we are yelling at each other in that house that we so lovingly built. So they came up with this technique and I was like, fabulous. Why not? You made it work the best way it could. So they're there at friends' houses over the weekend and they come back Monday evening home and they're like, well, it didn't work. Let's try again. So
at least they chose not to fight over it and blame each other. But Maya, I see in our functions culturally, when generally if it's my first cousin's wedding or something, you tend to go. But there'll be these people who slyly pull the woman, you know, when she's just going on to the stage and all, they'll wantingly call the woman aside. There'll be no work, but I have some work with you. But the woman understands that they don't want me to go there, or the man understands that they don't want my presence or my blessings to that particular couple or a child or anything. But they do it very slyly, and these people know. And somehow they end up being lonely. Neither of them talk to each other. How do they help each other not feel lonely during this journey? Maybe it can be a positive journey, it can be a negative journey too.
Do not do things you don't want to do. It's as plain as that. If you do not want to go to the function, if you do not want to be in the presence of people who are not going to aid you, do not do that. And remember the childhood logic that we always know. Do you want to go to the restroom with me? Carry a friend who's going to defend the hell out of you. You know, I mean, I've gone with a lot of my friends. I'm like, oh, auntie, yes, no, but she's going to stay here. She wants to see what is happening. You need that support system. You know, a lot of times anxiety cripples you, so you're thinking of what all they're going to say, but you're not preparing for what will you say if they were to say something. We're not speaking about being rude, we are not speaking about hurting people, but we are saying protect your mental health for yourself, because this is very, very important. The identity of you being a woman enough or a man enough with the presence or absence of a child doesn't define who you are. You are a person irrespective whether you have a child or not. Right? So find the support system, anchor those support system, and one important thing is prepare yourself before you go to these functions. Like, you want to go. These are your family. You want to go, right? So prepare and go and say things like, I do not want to have this conversation. Be blatant. It's fine. Say a no. No is not just about saying, I don't want to do this. A no is also saying, you are not going to come into my inner circle. I am not giving you permission to breach my boundaries and impact. So draw very strong, healthy boundaries. It could be parents, it could be friends, it could be extended relatives. Doesn't really matter. Say that, thank you for your concern, but I and my husband are doing what we can do best. Or, this is not a conversation the right time. I am not the center of the conversation. That person is. So get smarter. Now, how does this happen? With a lot of your mental strength being built in. So there's nothing wrong with saying no. There's nothing wrong with protecting yourself. You are not a bad person if you stand up for yourself.
Yeah.
Dress as pretty as you can. Wear the best blazer that is out there. Carry yourself. This is something my trainer used to say, chin up. She always says this. She's like, chin up. You have done nothing wrong to feel ashamed, guilty, or make yourself feel not worthy enough. People were right when they said you're enough.
While you were talking about having that coverage, right, that armor as cousins and the friends, it can also be a very tight rope to walk on sometimes, because you might get too casual and ask a question, ki kuch hua kya is month, and that might come across as insensitive. Or sometimes when you don't ask, they might feel that ye banda ko jante hue bhi kuch pooch hi nahi raha, he's trying to be silent in that moment. So how do you navigate that tricky path?
Ask. Just ask, would you be comfortable if we talk about this? And if they say a no, don't probe further. And if they say, hi yaar, but not right now, give them the space. And this is a conversation I would encourage people, always say, would you be comfortable? Ask permission. Because that is their private matter and you cannot go. So, best way is to do that.
But, I'm a person who would not ask, but do things and not ask questions. So for somebody like me, I want to be there for them. Like, for an example, when somebody goes home driving alone, I would say, text me back. Like that, what are the things a family and friends can do to show that they are there, to show that they are ready to listen to them when they want to talk, but would not voluntarily go and say, no, do you want to talk? Because even that question might trigger a lot of emotions.
I totally agree on that. It does bring about a lot of negative emotions and a lot of self-doubt. So, observe. Observe what makes people good. I'll tell you something that I picked up as a routine. Whenever I feel bad and I feel like extremely exhausted, I go buy at least a tiny plant. So now every time I'm sad, the house has a lot of plants. I'm like, at least there's some good that's come out. I mean, this is just a silly ritual that I began. Observe your loved ones who are trying to struggle through this. Does food make them feel better? Does a drive make them feel better without silence? Would they actually benefit from going for a night out in the city and painting the town red? Or do they want to do window shopping? Do they want to eat a bucket of ice cream? Do they want to go buy new shoes? Ask them what they want if they're not sure. And because it's a very heavy journey, right? Figure out, observe, and come up with smaller techniques that you could do. One of the nicer things that I've always done with friends who are struggling is, I would always ask, "Aaj ke mukhi samachar," and I would just leave it that way. So she would say, "Aaj ka mukhi samachar, हमारा दिल और दिमाग दोनों एक जगह पे नहीं है." Then I would say, "अच्छा, एक जगह पे आने के लिए करना क्या है?" So you see, you allow them to be in the driver's seat and lead the conversation. Take directions from them, observe them. Food is an amazing love language, right? So pick on food and be mindful. I would.
Don't get into emotional eating together.
Well, that's doubtful. But then
Once in a while, it's okay.
But then it should not be a circle. This is IVF cycle we are talking about.
Look who's speaking.
oh yes,
Once in a while, it's okay.
we're very happy that Sir's come here. Now the point is, while we are trying to understand how to do, it's also important that the people who are taking support also get support. Because if you're constantly being there for the person who's struggling, you also might feel like I'm not being enough. You know, if this is a mother, if this is a brother, if this is a sibling, and if this is a sibling, then you're like, I don't know what to do. So just sit with them.
Yeah.
The best thing you can do to anybody is just sit and, would you be okay putting a hand? Put a hand. Watch those same old boring movies that you watch together. Eat your comfort food. Snuggle with them. And remember, always ask. Always ask.
We have spoken so much about all of these IVF journeys and all of that. Are there any stories that the clients came to you or you heard, you read about it where the IVF journey was a failure but the bond between them increased?
Oh, yes. There has been some amazing bright light at the end of the tunnel. And some of the families have just accepted and they end up saying, I think we're enough.
Yeah.
That was so joyful to listen when they said that. And because people do know that I get plants, they bought me 4 plants and they said, Yellow, take your 4 babies. We also got 20 babies back home. It was a different change of thought process. Some of them ended up adopting. Some of them ended up adopting their own siblings' children where they were raising them. Some of them built trust. Somebody started giving money to foundations. Some of them got dogs and cats and fishes and turtles home. So they became a family in their own right. And the infertility was no longer a question of their existence, but they found new purpose in life. So there have been amazing stories, but then that's a lot of work.
Maya, that's a lovely story that you have told, and I think we are okay to adopt pets, dogs, other children also, and be comfortable in these days. The questions asked are a little less. Maybe they might have a few doubts, but thank you so much for having this conversation today. And for people listening, if you're going through this journey, please be mindful where you're going, how you're feeling, how people are treating you, and what is that you want to do. Please plan, talk, communicate, date each other, and then make this a wonderful journey for yourself.
And if you have felt that the conversation was helpful, do hit the like button. And if you think your friends or families would benefit from a conversation such as this, please don't forget to share it with them and subscribe to get more from us. Thanks a lot for joining us today. We'll see you soon.